Aubrey, how often do you talk about animals in daily life?
Not that
Not
often,
that
though
often.
randomly. April Fool's Day was recent, and I played an April Fool's joke on the twins and told them that a cat had snuck in through an open door, and they believed it. And then my daughter was immediately like, "Can we adopt it?" Like,
No.
no, it's a feral cat. No. Also, April Fool's Day. April Fool's.
So how did that work? Did they actually look for the cat?
Yeah, I didn't tell them right away that I told them
Okay.
that it had, pooped in the kitchen. So they, like, went and were trying to find the evidence. And then, Gigi was like, "Oh, well, let's adopt it. We should keep it. We need to give it a home." And I'm like, "April Fools." And then she was really mad. Often
Oh,
April Fool's jokes don't go well, like, someone's upset usually.
that's hilarious. Yeah, all kids want like animals.
I
All
know.
the kids want all the pets. I've had to
Totally.
say no to so many like gerbils and lizards. I was like, we already have animals. We're fine.
Right.
Um, okay, so today, guys, we're gonna give you some sample band 9 answers for a part 2 question and part 3 questions related to animals. Now, that's why this is so important because we don't often talk about animals in daily lives, except for pets. If you have pets, you talk about your pets. But other than that, like we're not always talking about animals. So that's why
Right.
these questions can be so difficult on IELTS.
And if you don't have pets, it's especially difficult.
Right?
I don't have pets, so I never talk about animals. Every now and then I might say, "Oh, cute dog." No, I don't have conversations about animals. So this is something you need to practice so that you are ready because these questions do come up on IELTS speaking.
Yep, a lot more often than you think, guys. So
Yeah.
let's get into it. Aubrey's going to answer a sample part 2 question. And then I'm going to do the part 3 answers. All right, so let's get to it. Aubrey, I would like you to describe an interesting animal you have seen.
I'm so excited that I got this question because a few years ago, the craziest thing happened when my sister was in town. We were walking near my parents' condo in North Scottsdale, which is near the desert. Like there's a lot of land up there that hasn't been developed. And there was a whole family of javelinas, which, if you've never seen a javelina, they look like a warthog. They're a giant pig with long tusks, very hairy, long hair, really crazy looking, kind of scary. But on top of that, it was dark and we couldn't tell how many there were at first. And you would think most animals, if you need them to sort of get out of the way, you will, maybe try to scare them, charge them. So that's what my sister did, which was a terrible mistake because the javelinas charged her. I think it was a mom with some babies because we
Mm.
realized after that some of them were small. They were like little young javelinas. And so she screamed and ran, and we realized there were a whole bunch of them. The babies, you know how most baby animals are really adorable? These weren't. Baby javelinas are also really ugly, to be honest. Like, they're not a beautiful, cute little pig. Like, pigs are so cute. Javelinas are not cute. They're just scary, even if they're little. And they didn't have the tusks, just the one. Maybe there were two adults because I feel like there were two with tusks that were super long and scary. You could easily, if they jabbed you with those tusks, you could be fatally wounded. Like that would be a serious injury. And they were fast, they were very aggressive. So luckily, we hightailed it out of there. We ran into my mom's condo and hid. We didn't even dare. We were headed to the pool when we saw them. We didn't even dare go back out. We were just like, plans canceled. No going to the pool for us. There was a pack of javelinas outside. And that was probably the craziest interaction I've ever had with animals.
Thank you. Thank you. That was so good. Did that feel like a fast 2 minutes or a slow
Yes.
2 minutes?
It felt really fast right until the end when you could say I was like, "That's the craziest interaction I've had with animals." I was like, "What else do I say?" Right? I was
It
going to
was
start saying,
perfect.
"I don't have pets, so I don't see animals a lot."
It was perfect. Okay, guys, so this is how important it is to prepare for these crazy topics like animals because you need the specific English vocabulary. So, guys, I would prepare a story about a wild animal you've seen and learn all the English words for this animal and the parts of the animal. So, like Aubrey had to say javelina, warthog, tusks, right? The tusks are the big, like, bone things that stick out from animal faces, right? Um, And then a verb related to the animal's charge. So if you charge an animal or an animal charges you, it's not like you have to pay money. Charge means that they are running towards you, they are trying to attack you, right? So to charge an animal like your sister did, she ran towards the javelinas, which was an accident. It's a crazy story because we saw wild javelinas in Flagstaff, Arizona a couple years ago.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
they're crazy, they're there. And then jabbed, jab is the verb for if a tusk, like, pokes your skin, or a knife is, like, thrust at you, jab. So there are a lot of great vocabulary phrases in that answer, guys. So you should definitely listen to her answer again, and then try and use the same vocabulary where possible in your own crazy animal stories. All right, Aubrey. So now I'm going to answer some part 3 questions about animals. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm excited to ask you these. And these will be a little different because, like you said, Jessica, early in the episode, it can be really tricky if you don't think a lot about animals, but also some of the questions about animals that we have seen on IELTS exams are a little out of the box. You might not expect them. So you need
Yeah.
to really, be creative when you're thinking, when you're practicing these answers. So these are going to be really helpful for that. Okay, you ready, Jessica?
I'm ready. And guys, keep in mind, I am not even looking at these questions. I haven't looked at these questions.
These are all
I'm staring
surprises.
directly at the camera. So you know that this is just like you'll get on the exam.
Exactly. You don't have time to prepare for these. Okay, first question. In what ways are humans different from other animals?
This is kind of a ridiculous question, I think. Um, I do like thinking and philosophizing about the animal nature of humans because we are animals, just like whatever animals we see out in the wild. But how are we different? Mainly our brains, right? Our brains is what delineates us from the average animal because we are capable of complex speech, we are capable of complex structures and farming, agriculture, all of the things that make us quote unquote civilized, all of those abilities come from our ability to think. And that is what differentiates us from any other animals that we may be compared to.
Ooh, amazing. I love how you started this answer because, guys, if you are asked something that's weird that throws you off, feel free to, like Jessica did, laugh and say, like, this is kind of a ridiculous question, just like she did. Absolutely. What a smart filler. This is native. This is fluent because this is what a native speaker would say if someone asked them that question. It's strange.
It's a weird question.
It is a weird question, but then notice she's still like she had, a couple seconds to think about it, and then she dove right in with an answer, right? And she started saying, "Okay, well, brains," and she's giving all this great vocabulary. The verb differentiate is so high level. That's band 9. That's
Mm.
just something that is different. How is one thing made different from another? Differentiate. The thing that differentiates us from animals is our brains. We're capable of complex thinking. So she's filling all of this interesting vocabulary as she's thinking about like something that she hasn't thought about, or at least not recently, right? And
Mhm.
that's where you can see practice is so vital because you have to be bringing in this interesting vocabulary, these idioms as you think of answers sometimes.
All right, hit me with another question, Aubrey.
All right, second question. What are the main roles of animals in your country?
Well, the first thing that springs to mind is just as loving and loyal pets. Because I live in Portland, Oregon, and I think everyone has dogs here, but also tons of cats and every other type of pet under the sun. So that's the first role is to be a pet. I mean, everything else that animals used to do for us, like helping in agriculture and stuff, most of those tasks have been replaced by machines. So I guess the second most thing is food because we eat a lot of red meat and not red meat, white meat. We eat tons of meat in America. So I guess that is the second most important role. And then the third, if I have to name another, would be for clothes, leather handbags, beautiful suede pants, what have you. So yeah, I would say those are the three main roles.
Amazing. Such a good answer. Think about all of the great vocabulary Jessica was able to use here. If you have practiced answering questions about clothing and animals and food and agriculture, then you're pulling vocabulary from all of those for a question like this, right? So also notice the pronunciation. Go back if you didn't think about that and listen again. The way she says tons and super and a lot of. And then her tone really changes when she starts saying leather handbags and suede purses, this great vocabulary, but also very native intonation to have that rise and fall, really hitting some of the words and then pulling back a little. And then a great idiom I want to highlight, you said, what springs to mind. This means like the first thing that I think of, but that's a band nine way to say the first thing that springs to mind is. So use that.
Mhm.
You could use that on any IELTS answer.
And then it's a whole other complex grammar structure if you start the phrase with what springs to mind is, right? Because that's
Yes,
a whole dependent clause there. So yeah, I love that idea for just replacing one to one. It could replace the first thing I think of is, and that's something I hear students say all the time. So, yep,
absolutely.
I'm going to say that is the biggest takeaway, guys. Start your part three answers with that phrase, what springs to mind is. And definitely listen to today's episode more than once so you could write down today's incredible animal vocabulary.
Absolutely. Don't forget to tell a story on part two. Imagine if I just tried to actually describe a javelina for 2 minutes. There's only so much you can say, you know?
Not a
Tell a
lot.
story, practice telling a story. Cause yeah, I would have run out. 15 seconds. I'd be like, I'm done. I don't have anything else to say.
I know exactly. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we will be back on the next episode. All right, Aubrey, have a great day.
You too. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.